You know, the closer you get to nature, the healthier the food, the healthier the soil. So you're going to give it a try. And we'll have a field day for people to look at it in June. So if any of you guys want to come over and just see what this looks like in the field.
Where are you located?
You're located outside of Marlin, which is halfway between here and p.e.a.c.h on the Columbia Plateau. So, pretty close.
What was the first grouping? It was wheat, peas, and something else?
And Camelina.
Camelina,
Camelina, the reason they liked Camelina so much is when you look at the history of it. When it's mentioned in, you know, the mention of Camelina go back like 5,000 years. It's another one of those really ancient crops. A lot of these mentions talk about how Camelina grows in other crops, in flax crops, in wheat crops. So it's, I mean, even back then, it's a plant who really likes to, you know, almost a weed. But it's really funny. Yeah, the history of it is very similar to these grains. They found it, there are these real old, they are offshore villages built on stilts that actually precede the Celts. It goes back over 5,000 years ago, or 5,000 BC. Yeah, 5,000 BC. And they were growing that. That's some of the earliest agriculture. And then came the Celts. And they just, this was the main oil crop of the Celts.
Main what?
Oil. Oil crop. And they used it for lantern oil as well as food oil. And it spread through Europe. It went from the first time these archaeobotanists found it was at Lake Constance. And then they found it near Erfurt, and that dates 1200 BC. Erfurt is in the north of Germany, east of Thuringia. And then the Romans, as the Romans took over Europe, the Romans grew it all over Europe. And this guy here, Hieronymus Bock of Zweibrücken, Germany, he wrote a herbal book in 1554, and he talks about it quite a bit. Why did it disappear from agriculture? It disappeared in the Middle Ages for the main reason that farmers learned to grow flax. When you grow flax, you have basically two uses for the plant. You get the oil from the seed, and you get linen from the fiber. This stuff, it dries down to nothing. There is hardly no fiber left. So farmers chose to go for the double-purpose crop. And they still grew it up to, you know, they still kept fields of it around, but it lost its importance. And then the industrial farming started. Industrial farming and the breeding, plant breeding, they ignored the Spelt and the Emmer and the einkorn because of the hull. It was just too expensive to do the de-hulling. They wanted mass production. So all the breeding and the GMO stuff happened with wheat and corn and potatoes. But they ignored this, which kept the genetics pure. With this, it was the same thing. Ironically, it does not, this is one oilseed that does not lend itself to hydrogenation. Oh, you can't hydrogenate it. You don't want it. And again, that's what kept the genetics pure. So we're having these old genetics here that are very close to what was around thousands of years ago. And it's kind of fun to be working with them on the land rather than These two were the two original. Both of these were found, you know, when you're looking at pre-agrarian cultures, it's really difficult because they were, you know, they were nomads. So these archaeobotanists, basically they're looking for firings. You know, they dig up firings and they say, okay, here was some kind of camp. And then they look at, okay, what kind of seeds lie around? You remember that guy they found in the Alps in the ice?
Oh, yeah.
Up through the ice, man. This is what was in his clothes, and this is what we found in his stomach, is the hindquarter. So these two are the original wheats. Spelt and what we know as wheat today didn't occur till agriculture. You know, it happened as an outcross, probably from Emmer. Emmer crossed with something else and made spelt, and then Emmer crossed with something else and made wheat. So there is no wild spelt. Even today, the wild forms of Emmer and einkorn, you can find them. Einkorn grows in Turkey, wild. The wild form is a little different from the land-raised form, and the Emmer grows wild as well, today. Whereas this, there is no wild spelt, and there's no wild wheat. The crosses just happened. They happened naturally, but they were selected by farmers. You know, if you're growing this stuff, right, and all of a sudden you find a few stalks of this, well, it's very obvious this produces more than this. When you look at the size of the head. So farmers knew to select. They saved this for seed, and eventually that became spelt. And the same with wheat. Oh, look here, there's something that washes free. I don't have to feed it. You get the kernels out, you know. So that gave us modern wheat. But what the scientists don't understand to this day is that even in the 1800s, Germany produced way more spelt. Yeah, right. In the mid-1800s, the southern part of Germany produced 500,000 acres of spelt for bread, but only 30,000 acres of wheat. And scientists don't understand that. They can't explain, why don't you grow this if you can grow free threshing wheat? Because wheat is so much easier. You know, you cut wheat and you get the kernel.
Yes, but spelt has a higher nutritional value.
Yeah, and they also think that maybe it was less susceptible to this disease called rust, which makes the stem kind of reddish, and makes for a real kind of a stunted stand of wheat. But for whatever reason, spelt is in southern Germany and Switzerland. Spelt is a big thing, and it's making this big comeback right now. Even as beer, there's the largest organic brewery in the world here in Spelt beer. Steady living bring you peace of mind. Would you ever trip my line? Steady living a change of lifestyle. Steady living, rest my body for a while.